I went into the woods that morning with just one thing on my mind: duck hunting. My friend Jake and I had been waiting all week for this trip. We got up before the sun, packed our gear, and headed deep into the trees of Taylorsville, North Carolina. The air was cold. The wind whistled through the branches, making the leaves rustle like whispering voices. But we weren't scared. Not yet. We reached the edge of a murky pond and set up, waiting for ducks to fly in. But something felt wrong. The woods were too quiet. No birds chirping, no squirrels rustling in the leaves. Just silence. I tried to shake it off, but my stomach felt tight, like something bad was about to happen. Jake was the first to notice it. "Do you smell that?" he whispered. I sniffed the air, something rotten, like old wet meat left out too long. My skin prickled. "Maybe an animal died," I said, but I didn't believe it. The smell was too strong, too wrong. Then we saw it. Something pale sticking out of a pile of leaves. At first, I thought it was a deer. Maybe some hunter had left it behind. But as we got closer, my legs froze. My breath stopped. A hand. A human hand, stiff and gray, reaching out from the dirt like it was trying to grab something. I stumbled back. My heart thundered in my chest. Jake's face turned pale as a ghost. "No, no, no," he mumbled. "We shouldn't have been there. We shouldn't have seen this." The woods felt different now, like we weren't alone, like something or someone was watching us. The trees seemed taller, their twisted branches reaching down like bony fingers. The wind howled through the leaves, but it sounded like whispers. "Run. Go. Now." Jake grabbed my arm. "We gotta call the cops now." My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. No signal. That's when we heard it. A snap, a crunch, something big moving through the trees behind us. My whole body turned to ice. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Jake spun around, his eyes wide with terror. "Somebody's coming." Branches cracked, leaves rustled. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Coming closer. Closer. We didn't wait. We ran. The woods were a blur of dark trees and tangled roots, but we didn't stop. Not for a second. My lungs burned. My legs felt like jelly. But we kept running. We had to get out. Then, just when I thought we were safe, a shadow moved in front of us. Something tall. Something wrong. My vision spun. My heart hammered. The thing was too far away to see clearly, but I knew it wasn't normal. Too big. Too still. Watching. Waiting. Then, it moved. A long, jerky step, like it was testing the ground. Then another, and another, coming straight for us. We turned and bolted the other way. We didn't stop running until we saw Jake's truck. We jumped in, locked the doors, and floored it out of there. I didn't breathe until we hit the highway. Later, when the police went to check the woods, they confirmed what we saw: human remains. But they never said whose body it was. They never said how long it had been there. And they never found who, or what, was out there with us that day. Jake and I, we never went back. Some things are better left in the woods. My friend's dad, let's call him Tom, was a man who cut down trees for a living. Not with an axe, but with a huge, screaming machine that could chew through thick tree trunks like they were nothing. He worked deep, deep in the black forests of Alaska, far away from towns, people, and safety. The trees stretched so high they blocked out the sky, and at night, it was so dark you couldn't even see your own hands. Tom wasn't always alone, though. He worked with his partner, a man named Jack. They used radios to talk to each other when they were cutting trees on different sides of the job site. But one day, the radios started acting strange. At first, it was just little noises. A whisper here, a crackle there. Maybe just the wind, right? But soon, they heard voices. Not normal voices. They didn't sound right. The words were all jumbled, but the way they spoke, it felt wrong. Like someone was watching. Like someone knew they were there. No matter what channel they switched to, the voices followed them. Then they found the footprints. This place was in the middle of nowhere. No roads, no houses, No reason for anyone to be there. And yet, footprints, and old rotting food, and a tent tucked away in the shadows of the trees. Inside the tent, they found something awful. A bag full of little kids' underwear, duct tape, rope, drawings. Terrible, horrible drawings of bad things happening to children. And worst of all, a fresh apple. That meant whoever was out here was still here. Jack wanted to leave right away, but Tom, he was stubborn. "We finished the job," he said. They agreed to use their radios only if there was an emergency. That night, as they sat in their small metal camper, the radio crackled to life again. This time, they could hear them. Two men, talking like normal people, talking about water, about making a fire. But now, Tom and Jack knew who they were. The same ones who left that tent. The same ones who had those awful things. They were close. Too close. Tom grabbed his radio and did something stupid. "Who are you? What do you want?" Silence. And then, nothing. No voices, no static. Just the deep, heavy quiet of the endless forest. Jack was furious. "You let them know we're here!" The next night, they came. Jack shook Tom awake. "Someone's outside." Crunch. Crunch. Soft, slow footsteps on the gravel, circling the camper. Tom's heart pounded. His gun! Where was his gun? He fumbled for it, but his hands were shaking. No bullets. No time. The door handle jiggled. The door creaked open. Something scratched against the metal. Long, slow, scraping sounds. Then, the door exploded open. A dark figure lunged, a knife flashing in the moonlight. Pain! Tom hit the ground hard, blood running into his eye. The knife pressed against his throat. Another man appeared, kicking him again and again. Jack roared and threw himself at them. He tackled the man with the knife, punching, biting, clawing, doing anything to get him off Tom. The second man bolted into the trees. The one Jack had tackled scrambled to his feet and ran after him. And then, silence. Gasping. Bleeding. Tom and Jack staggered into their truck and drove as fast as they could to the nearest hospital. Hours away. Tom's face was destroyed. His eye, ruined forever. The police? Useless. No one was caught. No one was punished. And then, weeks later, another logger was found, bound, gagged, raped, murdered, stuffed in a ditch like trash. No arrests, no answers. And those men? They were still out there. Tom never slept right again. His eye, his face, his nightmares, they never let him forget. And now neither can I. So when you go into the woods, when you think you're alone, remember this: you're not. It was cold, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. My name is Sam, and I live in a very old house in the middle of nowhere. Well, not nowhere. My house is on the edge of the Black Forest in Germany. The trees are huge and never seem to end. My fiancée, Lily, and I had lived there for a few months when the first strange thing happened. One morning, I went outside to get my truck, but as soon as I stepped onto the snow-covered driveway, I froze. There were footprints. Not mine, not Lily's. They came from the forest, walked right up to my truck, and then turned back around into the woods. Who was out here in the middle of the night? I ran inside. "Lily, did you go outside this morning?" She shook her head. "I just woke up." "Why?" I didn't want to scare her, so I just said, "Nothing." But I knew it wasn't nothing. 2 years passed and I tried to forget about it, until it happened again. But this time, it was worse. The yard was covered in footprints. They were everywhere. By the windows, the doors, the shed. Someone had walked all around our house, standing just outside, watching. But the worst part? No shoe prints. Bare feet. Who walks barefoot in the snow? I ran around the yard looking for anyone hiding, but I found nothing. Lily was scared. She wanted to call the police. But what could we say? There's footprints in our yard? They just tell us to lock our doors. So I grabbed my rifle and did something I had been dreading for years. I followed the footprints into the woods. The trees were quiet, too quiet. No birds, no wind, just my own breath fogging up the air. I walked for a long time, my heart beating in my chest, when I noticed something strange. The footprints. They split into two paths. Two people? But no. There was no way someone had walked so perfectly in another person's footsteps without messing up even once. Unless they had walked backwards to trick me. A chill ran down my spine. I turned back. I wasn't staying out there after dark. That night, Lily and I locked every door and window. We barely slept. Months passed, and just when I thought we were safe, it happened again. Footprints. This time, they led to our shed. And when I checked inside, tools were missing. Someone, or something, had stolen from us. I had had enough. I called my best friend, Theo. He was a hunter, an expert in the woods. I told him everything. He agreed to come over and help me track whoever or whatever was out there. That night, we geared up and walked into the Black Forest. The footprints were fresh. We followed them for hours, deeper than I had ever gone before. The trees loomed over us, and every crack of a branch made my skin crawl. Then, Theo grabbed my arm. "Stop!" He lifted his thermal scope, his hands trembling. "What? What is it?" I whispered. He handed me the scope. I looked through it, and I almost screamed. 4 shadowy figures, huddled in the snow, eating something. Their heads twitched, their bodies were thin, and the worst part, they were naked. Their skin was pale, their fingers were long. They weren't talking, just making these awful, choking sounds. The 2 bigger ones picked up the smaller ones and carried them deeper into the woods. Theo and I didn't move. We didn't breathe. We just sat there, frozen in place, waiting for them to disappear. When we finally made it back home, Lily was waiting. She was pale, shaking. "What did you see?" I didn't know what to tell her. "People," I whispered. "At least, I think they were people." The police searched the woods the next day, but by then, the snow had covered the footprints. There was nothing left to prove what we saw. Now winter is coming again, and I know they're still out there, watching, waiting, maybe for US. Last summer, I thought it would be fun to take a big adventure. I wanted to walk a long trail all by myself. So, I went to the Great Smoky Mountains. The plan was simple: park my car at the end of the trail, find a ride to the beginning, and walk back over 10 days. At first, everything was perfect. The trees were so tall. The wind whispered through the leaves. The air smelled fresh. It was just me and the forest. I felt strong, like I could walk forever. Every night, I set up my tent far from the trail so no one could see me. It made me feel safe. But on the 3rd night, something felt wrong. I woke up in the middle of the night. My stomach felt twisted. My skin was cold. I didn't know why, but I knew someone was near. I grabbed my flashlight and my gun. My hands shook as I unzipped the tent. The forest was quiet, too quiet. I checked my backpack. That's when I saw it. My wallet was gone. My heart started beating fast. I searched everywhere, but it was just gone. Someone had been inside my tent while I was sleeping. I didn't hear them. I didn't see them, but they had been there. The next night, more things went missing. A knife, a lighter, some food. Someone was following me, watching me. I wanted to leave, but I had no choice. I was deep in the woods. No phone signal. Nowhere to go but forward. That night, I tied my tent shut. I held my gun close and tried to stay awake, but my eyes got too heavy. I fell asleep. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Creeping. Right outside my tent. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The steps circled around me. And then, they were gone. I didn't sleep after that. At first light, I packed up and ran. I didn't stop for food. I didn't stop for water. I just wanted to get out. Then, at sunset, I heard it again. Footsteps behind me. I spun around, shining my flashlight into the darkness, and I saw it. Something darted behind a tree. My hands trembled. I pointed my gun. "Who's there?" I shouted. Slowly, a man stepped out. But he wasn't really a man. His face was covered in wild hair. His eyes were dark holes. His arms were covered in scratches. He wasn't wearing clothes, except for my shorts. My own shorts that had gone missing. He took a step toward me. I fired a warning shot into the ground. Bang! He screamed and ran into the woods, faster than any human should run. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just ran. Ran and ran until I saw my car. I jumped in, locked the doors, and called the police. They told me to leave immediately. I didn't need to be told twice. To this day, I still wonder who or what was following me. Was he living in the woods, waiting for someone like me? And worst of all, what would have happened if I hadn't woken up that night? I don't know, and I never want to find out. I will never go hiking alone again. My name is Tommy, and I don't go into the woods anymore. Not after what I saw. It happened one cold night in Pennsylvania, deep inside the game lands. I was out with my flashlight and rifle, looking for raccoons. I liked hunting alone, just me, the trees, and the stars above. But that night, something was watching me. At first, I thought it was just the wind. The trees whispered, the leaves rustled, and the darkness seemed thicker than usual. My boots crunched on the frozen ground as I walked, the cold air biting at my skin. But then I heard it, a heavy branch snapping. Not just any twig, this was the sound of something big. I stopped. My breath puffed out in little white clouds. My heart thudded like a drum in my ears. I aimed my flashlight toward the sound. At first, there was nothing, just black trees and shadows. But then, I saw it. 40 yards ahead, standing behind a tree, was something massive. Bigger than any man. Bigger than any bear. It had gray, wrinkled skin like an old elephant, but its muscles bulged like a giant's. It was covered in patches of dark, wiry hair, and its eyes, oh God, its eyes glowed yellow in the beam of my flashlight. They weren't like an animal's eyes. They were smart. They knew I was there. It took a step toward me. The ground shook. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My whole body froze. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped my rifle. The creature breathed, loud and deep, like a monster from a nightmare. And then, it smiled, not like a happy smile, a hungry smile. I turned and ran. Branches whipped at my face. My boots slipped in the mud. My breath came in panicked gasps. I knew I should shoot, but my brain was screaming one thing. Run, run, run! Behind me, I heard thunderous footsteps. It was following me, chasing me. My lungs burned, but I kept running, leaping over logs, tearing through thorn bushes, not daring to look back. Then, silence. I stopped, chest heaving. The woods were dead quiet. Too quiet. No crickets, no wind, just nothing. I slowly turned my flashlight around. My hands were shaking so bad the beam danced over the trees. And then, the creature was right behind me. Its massive hand reached out. I smelled its breath, rotten, like something long dead. My legs wouldn't move. My mind was screaming, but my body wouldn't listen. Then, a loud howl in the distance, not from it, from something else. The creature's head snapped up. Its yellow eyes flashed with something, fear. Then, faster than I could blink, it turned and stomped away into the trees. Gone. Vanished like a ghost. I didn't wait. I ran straight back to my truck. I slammed the door, locked it, and floored the gas pedal. My heart didn't stop racing until I was miles away. Even then, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting those glowing yellow eyes to appear. When I told people what I saw, they laughed, said it was a bear, a shadow, my imagination. But I know what I saw. It wasn't human. It wasn't an animal. It was something else, and it's still out there, watching, waiting. I will never go into those woods again.